Hi, my name is Kathleen and I wrote this book, Loving Choices, Peaceful Passing, Why My Family Chose Hospice. And today I want to talk about my mother. Although my book is mainly about my dad and the decision to enter the hospice program when he was dying from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Mom was a big part of that story. And our relationship really deepened during that period despite a lot of stress and anxiety. And I wanted to share some of the memories that the two of us had together. My parents had 5 kids, and I was literally in the middle of the family. I had an older brother, older sister, and younger sister. So I was smack in the middle of that pack of those kids. And I don't remember having a lot of time with Mom, just the two of us. But honestly, I don't know how she raised 5 children. I really don't. And my hat is off to her. But I do have a couple of memories of one summer morning, the two of us picking green beans in the garden. And another time we decided to paint the swing set, and we didn't know how to paint, and it didn't turn out too well, but we had a good time. She taught me the domestic arts. She taught me how to cook and bake, and she was a saint when she taught me how to sew. And as I grew up and moved on and started a family of my own, we were clearly women of 2 different generations, and I raised my children differently than she did. But we got along really well. We were friends. In the summer of 2000, when my dad was taken from the oncology clinic to the hospital via ambulance because he was too weak to keep taking the radiation treatments, we knew that Dad was dying. I drove over to Prescott, and my mom and my sister were there, and we were talking about what to do next. Mom, more than any of us, knew how much Dad had been suffering with the radiation, how weak he was, how miserable he was. And none of the 3 of us thought that radiation was going to cure the cancer. And we didn't know what to do, but we did know that we didn't want Dad to continue to suffer like this. So I told Mom I'd call Dr. Archer and talk to him about it. She was okay with that. And she was there the next evening when Dr. Archer came to the hospital and talked to my dad and said he considered guys like him to be terminal. And my dad's response was, Dr. Archer, I've had a good long life and I'm grateful. And when he said those words, our entire universe changed. We were free from the fretting about, is he going to get better? Is he not going to get better? Should we continue treatment? At that moment, we knew that that was all behind us, and it gave us a freedom to really concentrate on the time that he had left and make it the best that we could be. That's exactly what the hospice nurse said. We would make the rest of Dad's life the best that it could be. One of the memories I have of my mother during that time was one night we came back from the hospital after a long day, and we went into the little alcove of the retirement community where the residents got their mail. And my mother pulled out an envelope addressed from my brother John to my dad. And she said, I can't read this. She was just too tired and too emotionally drained to read it. And I said, well, let's go have dinner and relax a little bit, and then I'll read it to you. And she was okay with that. So we went into that beautiful dining room of the retirement community and had a lovely meal, watched the birds flit around the bird feeder. And then I had my chocolate cake, she had her cherry pie, and then I read the letter. And it was so beautifully written. It was such a testimony to my dad. And my brother John revealed some very tender moments between him and Dad that neither Mom nor I had known about. And I had to stop a couple of times and collect myself to get through that letter, and we cried right in the dining room, which is quite unusual for us Midwesterners, but we were very moved. And I really felt my brother's presence there. It was almost like there were 3 of us at that table. It was a very profound moment for my mother and me. Another very stressful, difficult time was when Mom and I sat down to plan Dad's memorial service. My parents had been staunchly unaffiliated with any religious group for their entire 56-year marriage, and she didn't want anything too religious. And I'm Jewish, so I brought a book of poems and psalms for funerals. And we sat together at the table, and I would start reading one, and if she liked it, she nodded yes, and I kept going. And if she didn't like it, she nodded no, and I would stop and go to the next one. And despite the task at hand, that is one of the most sacred moments I have ever had with another person, not just my mother. In that space where we were picking out the best words to comfort people and honor my father. And she excused herself to go into the bathroom, and I waited, and she didn't come back out. And so I went in to see if she was okay, and she was standing in the walk-in closet in her bedroom, and she had her back to me, and I went over and I put my hand on her shoulder, and she said, "This doesn't look good." And she just started sobbing. And I put my arms around her and I started sobbing too. And we just held each other through that horrible grief we were going through. We shared it with one another, with our terrible feeling about losing my father and her husband. And after a moment, we dried our eyes and we went back into the living room, watched an episode of Golden Girls on TV, had a glass of wine, and a few laughs. And I'm sharing these very intimate moments with you because we would not have had those if Dad would have continued that treatment, been in the hospital with a stomach tube, and would have died a horrible death while we sat outside in the waiting room. And that's what hospice gives people. It gives them the time and the space to really treasure those last days with their loved ones, to make the most of it, to make those memories. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book. Again, it's Loving Choices, Peaceful Passing, Why My Family Chose Hospice. You can buy it anywhere books are sold online, and I hope you'll pick up a copy and give it a read.